began my journey of body healing at age 30, almost 40 years ago. I did it because my body was falling apart, the culmination of a lifetime of one injury after another. The first thing I noticed as a child was at age 10, my left knee started swelling up and needed to be drained of fluid. And I'm going to go into the other things that followed that, the other body issues. But I need to stop and say that at the time that my knee swelled up, and really up until very recently, I really had no idea why my knee was swelling up. As a child, I thought I had a bad knee. And eventually I realized that it had something to do with what I was doing to myself. I didn't realize the true source. And only recently I realized the source of basically all my body problems. At age 5, I had an appendicitis. I had my appendix removed. In 1955, removing your appendix was major surgery. So I was cut right through here. And of course, it makes sense that after I got out of the hospital, that standing on this side of my body was going to be a problem. It hurt. So I've deduced over studying my body for 30 years that I started to throw my weight to the left to get myself off my right leg so that this would not hurt. You might notice that I'm very bow-legged on my left leg. Well, at a very young age, at age 5, when the body is very supple and very bendable, I was throwing my weight to this side. But of course, I didn't want to go to this side. If I kept going to this side, I would just fall over. So while my weight was taking me over to this side, I was bracing and bending my body back to this side. And so I have bow legs, and that I have a bad knee. So obviously, at 5 years old, I start sending my weight like this. Eventually, this knee is gonna give out. And by age 10, it was swelling up, so it had to be drained of fluid. Then I had to develop a new strategy. I had to get off my left leg now because my knee was killing me. So I developed a strategy of pulling myself over onto the right leg using groin muscles, deep muscles in the pelvis and lower body. This wasn't so good either. And by 17, this joint was so locked up, I had to go into the hospital. They put me in traction to pull it apart. Now, of course, the doctors had no idea. Had no word. Not only did they have no words of advice as to what this was, they didn't observe anything that I was doing that might be some causal factor to all these ailments. So they pulled me out of here at traction, but then the injuries started going up my body into my lower back. And I was active as a child in sports. I loved to play sports. But every time I started when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I would get back spasms almost every time I played. And then by my mid-20s, they were getting severe. And by my late 20s, I had to stop playing sports altogether. Then by 30, I couldn't even get through a day of office work without really straining my body. I eventually had to wear one of those neck things to hold my head up. At age 30, this is when I decided I had enough and that I started looking for something to do. So one of the things I did, oddly enough, decided to take a modern dance class. I don't know why. I was not really a good dancer. My body was kind of very screwed up. So I took this dance class, and it was a struggle. And for some reason, I decided to go up and talk to the teacher after the dance class. I don't have any recollection of why I went up to speak with her. But I have this recollection that I was just about to say something to her when I had this premonition that she was going to say, "You need the Alexander technique." Now, I had heard about the Alexander technique, and I'll describe it a little later, but sure enough, she said, "You need the Alexander technique." Wow. She gave me the name of this teacher that she had seen lecture at a health food store on the Upper West Side. I called him up, and he became my Alexander teacher, and he actually trained me to teach, because the Alexander technique It's an educational method to educate people about the habits they bring to their normal activities. And that it's about having the individual take responsibility for what he or she is doing to his or her body. That, of course, our bodies are under our own individual control. And so what we experience in our bodies is something that we're creating. So I really dove into the Alexander technique, and it really helped. So things were going well, so I decided to train to become a teacher of the Alexander technique, and this was just even more and more study. And I was really doing it to really heal. So it was going well. I was in the middle of my training when my teacher suggested that I join a summer softball league. Well, I hadn't played sports in 7 years. I'm 35 at this time. I hadn't played sports since I was 28. But I figured, oh, my body's feeling better. Oh, I'll play. I love softball. I'm going to play softball. Well, it didn't work out too well. That I really, after every game, I was soaking my body in the bathtub. I was aching. I really didn't heed my body signals too well. And eventually, I destroyed my lower back, rupturing discs at L4, L5, and L5S1. And that it rendered me out completely. I just couldn't move, and I was in a lot of pain. And that, so I would go see doctors, and I went to this neurologist at Mount Sinai Hospital here in New York, and I couldn't even sit up in the waiting room. I was in excruciating pain. I was on the floor, but I was against surgery. I was here with a neurosurgeon, but I did not want to go through surgery. I believed in the body healing itself. And I realized that I had made a mistake playing this softball. I didn't want to have surgery. So he said to me, and I told this to the surgeon, he goes, well, listen, can you stand up on your toes? If you can stand up on your toes, then you're fine. You might be in pain, and you can take any method you want. There's no danger as long as you can stand up on your toes. So I couldn't even stand up on my feet, basically, but I pulled myself up onto my feet, and sure enough, I could stand up on my toes, no problem. And so I decided not to have surgery, so I was fortunate enough that I could take 3.5 months off of work, which I needed to do. I only left my bed to go to the bathroom, to go to acupuncture treatments, and go to physical therapy. And after 3.5 months, I was back in business. I went back to Alexander training. I finished my training. I kept studying my body, but my body at this point was really damaged. That I could improve it, but at its core, I had done so much to my spine over the course of my lifetime that I really had to learn how to work my system well, or else I was going to be in trouble. A couple years later, I had another back episode. I tried to move a refrigerator. And so I threw my back out. This was 2.5 weeks. And then a couple years later, I was in a hurry and picked up 2 heavy suitcases in a hurry. That's another week. But gradually, my back episodes, they were less frequent and less severe. I'd been an Alexander teacher for 5 years. And I'm in my Tai Chi class, and we're doing an exercise, head circles. It's a very simple warm-up exercise where you sort of just rotate your head around in circles. So I'm doing it in the way I kind of do it, and my teacher stops me and says, "You're an Alexander teacher?" And he was kind of mocking me because I was throwing my neck around, and one of the parts of the Alexander technique is about keeping a free neck, and he thought I was just tensing it too much. And he was kind of mocking me, and he said, well, that's not how you do it. And I go, well, how are you supposed to do it? He goes, you're supposed to use your feet. Now, this is an exercise called head circles, and I've been doing it for 12 years with the same person, and this is the first time he's ever said you had to use your feet. So I say to myself, okay, I have to use my feet, or I'll give it a shot. So I start going around here, and I come to this side, and I see, oh, yeah, if I use this foot, I can push my head up. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, great. Oh yeah, the feet there. So now I try to go the other way, and I come to this side, and I draw a complete blank. I have no idea how I could possibly use this leg in any kind of way. So I'm stuck and I'm paying attention. And all of a sudden, I kind of noticed that my weight's way back on the outside of my heel. My leg is already, and my ankle and knee are already extended. Oh, I have no push. And then I notice, oh, I'm sending my weight actually way back in that direction. So all of a sudden, all my injuries start flashing before my eyes. That my left knee injury, and then I realized, I pulled myself off, that everything was predicated on the fact that I was doing this, and I was still doing it. I was doing it from age 5, and here I was, age 42, and I was still doing it. And I said, whoa. So I realized, well, if I'm sending my weight there, well, why can't I just send it there? This seems to be a much more sensible place to send my weight than to send it over there. That was 27 years ago. I've been studying my weight commitment ever since. When I first started studying, I realized because I had sent my weight out there, that this foot was actually very weak. That I was not, because I was not getting my weight into this foot, it wasn't working well. And so I really dedicated myself to try to get my weight, especially in walking, to get my weight straight down into this foot, because I noticed every time I walked, I kind of went like that to walk. And I thought, this is no good. But that my foot wasn't strong enough to really bear my weight. I felt like I was on a bronco in a rodeo, that when I go over to this side, it would just throw me off. So I was working on that and noticing where I was sending my weight in standing, that I was recognizing where it should go and realizing where it was actually going. And things were going well. But then I had another breakthrough. I'm at a jazz club seeing the great modern jazz saxophonist James Carter. And it's one of these supper clubs, so I'm there for 3 hours or so. And as an Alexander teacher and student, we're taught to keep a lengthened spine, a free neck. And so I'm sitting on my sit bones nicely and watching everybody else sitting back into chairs or leaning on the table and feeling pretty good about myself that I'm sitting up so nicely. But then after a while, I notice I'm getting a little tired. And then I find myself, I'm back against the chair. And I notice, my neck is aching and I'm not really being a good Alexander teacher, so I pull myself up. But then I get tired again, even sooner this time, and back I go. And then it dawns on me, oh my God, I'm throwing my weight so far back, and then I have to pull, and that this is not a good place, and this is not a good place, and I'm stuck. Because I could only be sitting up straight like this or back like this. And I realize, oh my God, this is where the weight commitment has gone so astray, that in standing, I could never throw my weights this far back. If I'm standing, basically, this is it. If I go back further, I'm going to fall over. And so I realize, oh my God, this is what needs to be studied. Because I'm not aware. I was not aware that I was tensing so much in here, because only when it got tired did I realize that, I had to let go of these muscles. And then I realized, I had to pull them to get off the chair. And I realized I needed to study this. And so this is what I've been studying. What happens when we throw our weight back? Because throwing our weight back so consistently for so long, hour after hour, day after day, year after year, starting at age 5. This has serious consequences, and it really has kept us from just falling straight down and seeing what happens. So I've studied myself over the last 27 years, and I've actually witnessed myself going back and witnessed myself actually commanding that act, in control of that act. And as I've done that, as I've gotten more aware, I've gotten better at falling straight down, and I've started to witness what happens. And I've came in contact with our innate uprighting system, the system that we were born with and used as infants and toddlers. And so no matter how bad we get, and I've gotten pretty bad, I would say I'm in the lowest 1 percentile. But so no matter how far gone we think we may be, we can bring it back. We can get in touch. We can learn to send our weight straight down. And when we do, we have this incredible uprighting system, this incredible innate uprighting system waiting for us.